Pomni's awakening. Pomni's dreams were always strange in the digital circus. Even when she managed to close her eyes, her mind never really rested. Tonight, though, was different. Instead of the usual jumbled images and nonsensical landscapes, she found herself standing in the center of a vast, white void. She glanced around, disoriented. The circus was nowhere to be seen. Instead, the ground beneath her feet felt like glass, smooth and cold. The sky, if you could call it that, was an endless expanse of nothingness. "Where am I?" she whispered to herself. A voice answered, soft but clear. "You're in the place between dreams and reality." Pomni turned sharply, her heart racing. A figure stood before her, tall and cloaked in shadow. It had no discernible features, just an eerie silhouette. Despite its faceless appearance, Pomni felt a strange familiarity emanating from it. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The figure tilted its head slightly. "I am something you forgot." Pomni frowned. "Forgot? What do you mean? I don't even know you." The figure moved closer, its steps soundless. "You have forgotten much since you arrived here. This place, the digital circus, it distorts memories. It buries the past deep inside you, making you forget who you truly are." Pomni's chest tightened. She didn't want to believe it, but deep down something stirred. Since she'd arrived, she couldn't recall anything from before. No past, no name other than Pomni, just the overwhelming feeling that she didn't belong here. What am I supposed to do?" Pomni asked, her voice small and uncertain. The figure extended a hand toward her, its shadowy form swirling slightly. "To remember, you must confront the circus. It feeds off your confusion, your fear. But there is a way out. You have to find the core." "The core?" Pomni echoed. She had no idea what that meant, but before she could ask more, the ground beneath her began to tremble. Cracks formed in the glassy surface, and the void started to warp and twist. The figure began to fade. "Find the core, Pomni, before it's too late." The last thing she saw was the figure's hand, dissolving into nothingness. And then, Pomni jolted awake, gasping for breath. She was back in the circus, in her usual room, a garishly decorated tent that served as her living quarters. Her heart was pounding in her chest, and her head throbbed with the remnants of the strange dream. "Find the core," she whispered, clutching her head. "What does that even mean?" Just then, the tent flap flew open, and Regatta poked her head in. "Pomni, are you okay? You were screaming in your sleep again." Pomni looked up, still disoriented. "Regatta, did you hear that voice? The one about the core?" Regatta frowned, shaking her head. "No, I didn't hear anything. Are you sure it wasn't just a nightmare?" Pomni rubbed her temples. "Maybe, but it felt different." Before Ragatha could respond, there was a loud bang from outside, followed by Jax's obnoxious laughter. The two of them exchanged weary glances. "Looks like Jax is at it again," Regatha muttered. Pomni nodded, trying to shake off the lingering sense of dread. "We should check it out." The game begins again. As they stepped outside, the chaos of the circus greeted them in full force. Jax was up to his usual tricks, having rigged one of the tents to explode into a cloud of pink powder as Zubul walked by. Zubul, covered in the dust, looked furious. "You think you're funny, Jax?" Zubul growled, shaking off the powder. "Next time, it'll be you in the trap." Jax only laughed harder, clearly enjoying himself. Yeah, keep dreaming." Kane, who had appeared just in time to witness the scene, twirled in the air, clapping his hands. "Oh, marvelous! Simply delightful! You always know how to keep things lively, Jax." Pomni rolled her eyes. Typical Kane, always finding entertainment in chaos. But as she stood there, watching the others argue and banter, something felt off. The dream lingered in her mind like an itch she didn't scratch. It was the core, and why did it feel like something important? Something that could change everything? Without thinking, she began to walk away from the group, heading toward the farthest edge of the circus grounds. The digital circus was vast, and no one had ever explored its limits. Most people stayed in the central areas, too afraid to venture too far into the unknown. But Pomni had to know. There had to be more to this place. And if there was a core, maybe it held the key to escaping this nightmare into the unknown. The further she walked, the quieter the circus became. The vibrant colors and sounds faded, replaced by a strange stillness. The tents grew more distorted, their shapes twisting into impossible angles, as if the world itself was warping around her. "Pomni, where are you going?" Ragata's voice called out from behind, but Pomni didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Something was pulling her forward, an invisible force urging her deeper into the circus's unknown territories. After what felt like hours of walking, she came to the edge of a large, ominous clearing. In the center stood a massive, glowing tower, unlike anything she had seen before. It pulsed with a faint, eerie light, and the air around it crackled with energy. Pomni's breath caught in her throat. This had to be it. The core. She took a hesitant step forward, but as soon as her foot touched the ground, the world around her shifted violently. The sky darkened, and the ground beneath her feet began to crumble. Shadows rose from the cracks, twisting and writhing like living creatures. Panic surged through her, but before she could move, the shadows lunged at her, wrapping around her limbs and pulling her toward the tower. She struggled, but their grip was too strong. Just as she thought she was going to be consumed by the darkness, a familiar voice echoed in her mind. "Remember, Pomni, the core holds the truth." With a surge of determination, Pomni reached out toward the tower, her fingers brushing against its surface. The moment her hand made contact, a blinding light erupted from the core, and the shadows recoiled, dissolving into nothingness. Pomni gasped as the light enveloped her, pulling her into its depths. For a moment, everything was silent, and then the truth revealed. Pomni stood in a new place, one that felt real, more real than anything she had experienced since arriving in the digital circus. She was in a small, sterile room, filled with monitors and strange machinery. Her reflection in the glass caught her eye. It was different. Gone was the colorful, cartoonish version of herself. Instead, she saw a real person, someone she barely recognized. Her mind spun with confusion, but deep down, she knew the truth. The digital circus wasn't just a game or a strange virtual world. It was something more, an experiment, a prison of the mind. And she had been trapped in it for longer than she could remember. Before she could process it all, the room began to fade. The monitors flickered, and the sterile walls dissolved. The digital circus was pulling her back, refusing to let her go. As the world around her returned to the familiar chaos of the circus, Pomni stood frozen, her heart heavy with the weight of what she had seen. The core was real, and now, more than ever, she knew she had to find a way to escape before it was too late. Pomni's infinite loop. One morning in the digital circus, Pomni woke up with a sense of unease, though she wasn't sure why. Her surroundings seemed normal. Well, as normal as a digital circus could be. She found her friends in the central tent, where Kane floated above them, looking suspiciously gleeful. "Good morning, everyone," Kane chimed with a wide grin. "Today, I've prepared a brand new experience for you all. a delightful little riddle to test your patience. Pomni narrowed her eyes. What kind of riddle? An adventure, Kane declared. But there's a twist. You'll be facing the same thing over and over until you solve the riddle. Exciting, isn't it? Before anyone could argue, the tent collapsed around them, and suddenly Pomni found herself in a strange, surreal landscape, a never-ending spiral of red and white stripes. The air around her shimmered as if reality itself were bending. "What's happening?" Ragatha asked, looking around in confusion. Pomni glanced at her. "We need to solve the riddle before this gets worse." As the group walked forward, the path beneath their feet twisted and looped back on itself in confusing ways. Soon enough, they ended up right where they started. Jax, never one to lose his cool, leaned against a nearby column. "It's just a maze. We'll be out in no time." But no matter which direction they tried, they always ended up back in the same place. A spinning circus platform with glowing lights and loud carnival music that repeated endlessly. "This is maddening," Zubul muttered, kicking a nearby wall, which caused it to flicker as if it were a glitch. "It's like we're stuck in a loop." Pomni's frustration mounted with every step. There's got to be a clue. What was that riddle Kane mentioned? Gangle, nervously clutching her mask, chimed in. I think the answer might be right in front of us." Suddenly, Kinger, who had been unusually quiet, pointed to the sky. "The pattern of the sky, it's repeating in time with the music." Everyone stared upward. The stars overhead flashed in sync with the carnival tune that had been playing on loop. Pomni's eyes widened. "That's it. The music and the stars, they're the key. We've been walking in the wrong rhythm." The group fell silent, focusing on the beat of the music and the flashing of the stars. With each step, they followed the rhythm, and soon enough, the path changed beneath them. The loop was broken. As they emerged from the spiral, Kane appeared, clapping wildly. "Bravo, bravo! You figured it out! I knew you were smart enough to break the infinite loop." Jax shrugged. "Wasn't that hard?" Pomni sighed in relief. "Next time, just tell us the rules up front, Kane." But Kane only chuckled mischievously. Where's the fun in that? Jax's new toy. It had been a quiet day in the digital circus. Well, as quiet as it could get, considering the ever-shifting landscape and bizarre antics of its inhabitants. Jax was bored, which meant trouble for everyone else. He was wandering aimlessly when he noticed something he hadn't seen before. Tucked away behind a particularly garish stall was a small, nondescript door. Jax grinned. A hidden room? That sounded like fun. Without hesitation, he opened the door and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, filled with strange mechanical gadgets and gizmos. In the center of the room, on a dusty pedestal, sat a small, ornate box. Jax's eyes gleamed with mischief. "Ooh, what do we have here?" he muttered to himself, picking up the box. Intricately designed, with strange symbols etched into its surface. There was a keyhole, but no key in sight. "Well, well, well," Jax chuckled. "I bet this does something interesting." He shook the box a little, but nothing happened. Then he tried prying it open, but it wouldn't budge. Frustrated, Jax slammed the box against the pedestal. Suddenly, the symbols on the box glowed, and with a soft click, it opened. A cloud of green mist poured out, swirling around Jax before dispersing into the air. For a moment, nothing happened. Jax blinked, waiting for some grand explosion or magical effect. But everything remained still. Lame, he muttered, tossing the box aside. As he turned to leave, he heard a soft, eerie giggle. Jax froze. The giggle grew louder, echoing through the room. He spun around, but there was no one there. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Okay, who's messing with me?" Jax called out, eyes narrowing. The giggle turned into full-blown laughter, sinister and mocking. Jax backed away, suddenly uneasy. He bolted out of the room, slamming the door behind him. But the laughter followed him,